Welcome to the World Famous Adventurers Club. I'm Craig Carroll, member number 1230. Over the last 101 years, we have, through wars, depressions, famine, and pandemics now, we have met nearly every Thursday evening to celebrate those who venture far beyond the beaten path. It is in that spirit this evening that I introduce you an amazing explorer who defines the spirit of adventure, Sabrina Howells.
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is an incredible space, and all of you have been so incredible to speak to earlier in the night, so I hope to live up to all of you.
So you're a rally car navigator. Not a rally car, but what do you define your sort of vertical that you race in?
So I've raced in several different types of vehicles, and it's technically not a race. It is an off-road navigational rally. And the rallies that I do, you are not allowed to have any GPS. Your phone, your technology is confiscated at the beginning of the rally, and you are left with a compass, a map, and latitude and longitude points, and you have to find these throughout the desert, navigate your way across in very technical terrain, so that's where the challenge for the driver comes in, and for the navigator, it's figuring out how to get somewhere without what we use nowadays.
Modern navigation tools.
Modern navigation tools.
And it's not just any map that you're using. Tell us a little bit about the map, because it's not like you went to AAA and you got these great triptychs.
True. Well, I've done rallies in Morocco and rallies here in the United States. In Morocco, what's fascinating is that they give you these hand-drawn maps from the 50s. So this is an example of one of them that we get to use. This would be from Air Food. And
what could go wrong there?
What could go wrong? Well, what could go wrong is there are roads that don't exist anymore, or roads that used to exist and no longer exist.
Yeah. So how do you navigate around that? Because you could be the greatest navigator in the world if you don't have accurate maps.
Well, you have to use a lot of precision. So if you're coming along what looks like a little road on a map, you have to double, triple, quadruple check, get out of the car 50 times an hour to just make sure that the angle that you are driving in is the same angle as on that map. The second you're lost in Morocco, you need to stop and recalibrate yourself, because if you second guess yourself and you just keep going, then you're just compounding the error. You are now, 15 kilometers off and the difference of like a degree over the course of 10 kilometers, 1 degree, if you can imagine, if you're just going 1/10 of a kilometer, you won't be too far off. But the further you go, the farther away from this point that you were trying to get to becomes.
And the waypoints that you're measured by are incredibly small. It's not like a little booth out there with a glass of water for you. They're like these tiny little points. And then you were telling me you have to hit some sort of finder that tells the judges?
Well, there's two rallies. So there's the Morocco rally, which the photo there, that is from the Morocco rally that I did, the Gazelle rally. And with the Gazelle rally, there's always going to be a big flag. But the challenge with the Morocco rally is you need to go as straight as possible from point to point. That's how you are. That's how you're scored. The shortest distance from point A to B is the winner of each checkpoint, or the adding up all of them.
The most direct route.
The most direct route. So if I am at one point in the map and there is a giant mountain that there is no way I can traverse between myself and point B, I need to make that mathematical decision when I'm going to veer to at 10 degrees to the east to be able to have the shortest distance around this mountain. And sometimes you get to that point on the map and there's still no way to get around that mountain, so now you need to find another path around or over the mountain. There was 1 year where I was vying for between fifth and fourth place with another team, and every time we would slide up very slowly to the flag because we didn't want to be off by even an inch, they would also slide up by an inch, and we would check each other's calculations, and we would cheer or cry depending on which person got the shortest distance. And at one point they were in trouble and they needed to be towed out of some sand, and we were the closest to them, and we drove over to them and we towed them out, even though it was going to give us extra distance on our calculations. And to repay us, they drove in several circles to make up for the
Very
distance.
sporting.
Yeah.
Clearly women.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. Men have tried to do the Gazelle Rally and they have broken their cars.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because why? They drive too hard?
They drive too hard, they drive too fast. They talk about your third teammate. There's the driver, there's the navigator, and there's your car. And you need to keep your third teammate alive and happy and healthy. And on the rally, if you blow a tire, if you have something go wrong with your tie rod, we have to fix what's going on with our cars on the road. And the men were just driving like it was a speed race, like they were driving in the Dakar. And this terrain is incredibly tricky. There's camel grass that just pops out of nowhere that you can get high centered on. There's so much that can happen to your car, and these men were also the communication in the car. They just couldn't seem to communicate with each other without having a lot of breakdown in.
So tell me about communication, because I was sort of fascinated when I was talking about it. Now, we should also say that your partner, Alyssa, could not make it due to snow in
Yes.
Big Bear, and she's the driver, right?
Yes, she is the driver. They say the navigator can get you lost, but a driver can get you killed. Mm-hmm. And so so there's a lot of trust that needs to be happening between teammates. And Alyssa is a fantastic driver. I actually did not compete with Alyssa in Morocco. We competed in the U.S. Rebelle Rally together. But we were on separate U.S. teams at the same time in Morocco. And she drove a Sprinter van, a Mercedes Sprinter van with Chrissy Beavis, who is a world-class navigator. She is incredible. And they won the Gazelle Rally. They were the first American team to ever win the Gazelle Rally.
I don't think of Sprinter vans or minivans in general as being the preferred mode of transportation on something, but
yeah, and you should have seen her just navigating these sand dunes. And so I knew when we were paired up for the Rebelle Rally that if she could win driving a Sprinter van through the Moroccan sand dunes, that I could trust her.
She was the girl for you.
Life. Oh yeah, yeah.
What's the secret to good communication?
We've decided between the two of us that the secret to good communication, it starts with what your intentions are going into this challenge. If you have completely different ideas of what you want to accomplish, there's no way you're going to make it through 7 or 10 days of 12 hours a day in a car together.
Is that how long this race is? It's 7 to 10 days? Wow.
Morocco is 10 days. And
that's the Gazelle, right?
Yes, yeah, the Gazelle Rally is a 10-day rally. You're waking up at 4 a.m. to this, it's intense, to this French woman walking through with a bell going, "C'est 4 Gazelle, c'est 4." And you have to wake up and plot points on a map and then be on the starting line by 6 a.m.
And you're just getting the map that morning?
They give you all your maps up front, but they don't give you your checkpoints. Mm-hmm. They give you your checkpoints daily.
Got
it. So she, let's see. So you wake up at 4 a.m. and you're off to the races. That's a picture of the inside of our car.
Follow the arrow. You're like, go that way.
And I've lost my thread of.
That's okay. I'll bring you back on a thread. So we were talking about communicating.
Yes.
Like, how do you? Because I read. Okay, so I read about that race I sent you, the Italian race.
Yes.
In the 1950s, the Gullwing won, and they won it because the car was so loud, but they had developed hand signals, and that's why I was really interested. How do you guys communicate in high pressure situations?
Well, again, I go back to what your intentions are. So for us,
we want to win, right? Don't you want to win?
We go into it saying, yes, we want to win, but you're going to have challenges that are going to set you back. And if something happens and you're set back in points, then it's very easy to lose sight of of winning the day. And our last year that we did the Rebelle Rally, day one, we were on an enduro, which is a Dakar-style section where it is at speed, and they give you turns and at different distances, and you have to pass certain checkpoints at certain times. And we blew a tire, and it was literally 3 hours into the day, and then we blew another tire, and that tire had the sensor on it for our TerraTrip, which is the external odometer that tells you very specifically how far you've gone versus your car's odometer is going to be a little bit off. And so this is a very essential tool to be able to know how far you've gone in a rally where very specific distances are essential.
Down to feet, right? The points, the waypoints are down to feet and inches.
Down to feet, down to inches.
Yeah, that's incredible.
The waypoint, it's sort of like a dartboard. If you hit it right on, you get full points. If you hit it within 100 yards, you get another set of points, and it keeps, getting less and less.
Yeah, like a bullseye. Got it.
And so the second tire, it was down, and we were so far behind in points after that first day. We were like, there's no way we're going to win this rally. And so instead of thinking, oh, there's no way we're going to win this rally, our decision was, we're going to win every day. And today, we're going to win today. And the next day, we came back, and we won several of our enduros that day. We were first in points that day. The next day, we were either first or second. We kept winning the day, and it's because every morning we wake up and we say, today we're going to win the day. When something happens that's a mistake, that it's either my mistake or her mistake, we own the mistake together. If I make a navigational error, she doesn't yell at me. She accepts it as her own mistake as well. If she does a driving error, it is our error together, and I think that's really what builds our team together.
Guys would be cursing at each other. They're probably having a fist fight, right?
Yeah.
I'd be like, you stupid idiot. Hey, so do you carry 2 tires?
Yes. Well, it depends on the car that.
But in that case, did you have 2 tires, or you had to actually repair the tire in the field?
In that case, we actually repaired one. We put a patch on one, and then the other one we couldn't because we were driving a crossover. There's 2 classifications. There's the 4x4, so like the big Jeeps, the trucks, and then there's the crossover category, and we were driving for Kia, and so they put us in a Telluride, which is a unibody construction, no differential locks. So it's just a different class, and there's not room for 2 tires. So there's 1 tire that's kept at the bivouac for the crossover class. But when we're driving 4x4, you do keep both tires.
I gotta say, you're a good woman to have around. You change a tire, you can navigate, 2 things I don't want to deal with. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you a sort of a difficult question, especially because Alyssa's not here to defend herself. Who's the star? There's the navigator and the driver.
It's so funny because in the rally, everyone says that the navigator is the star, and maybe I'm just modest, but maybe it's just because it's such a fun game to me that I don't see it as this incredible thing that I'm doing. But everyone says the navigator is the star. So, it's not me saying it. It's everyone else saying it. Without a navigator, where are you going to go? Yeah, but I also, I wouldn't want to drive the sand dunes the way that Alyssa does. She is fearless, and I'm half the time outside of the car when we're in the sand dunes running so I can tell her what lines to do. So I get a lot of exercise on Sand Dunes Day. We have a little song. You got your running shoes on because it's a dunes day. You got your running shoes on because it's a dunes day.
I like it.
Yeah.
Things don't work out with the rally career.
Yeah. I have a band, guys.
Have you always been into this? Like, were you like a little kid running around with a compass?
I have always been a math nerd and a puzzle nerd and a scavenger hunt nerd. I like solving puzzles. And I knew nothing about cars, and I knew nothing about navigation. And about 10 years ago, a friend of mine was trying to do a GoFundMe for this, she wanted to do a documentary on this rally in Morocco. This Gazelle rally, which is this fantastic off-road all-woman rally that was started in the 90s, I want to say 1990, by this woman in France. And part of the rally, the funds that are raised for it, they have a charity organization. And along the route of the rally in Morocco, a medic van follows and goes to all the little villages all through the desert of Morocco. Over the years, they've built orphanages, they've built women's centers, they've just done such incredible work in Morocco, specifically for women, but then also now it's expanded just to medical help throughout the country. And so she wanted to do this documentary, and I got that email, and rather than donate to her, I decided, what is this? I have to do this rally. I don't know how to do any of this, but it's in Morocco, which sounds super cool. It's in an off-road car. That sounds cool. I'm gonna learn how to use a compass. Great, let's do it. And I called the woman who was sort of training the new US teams, this woman, Emily Miller, who is the woman who ended up creating the Rebel Rally here in the United States. And she's like, well, it's in 3 months. And I'm like, well, I can try to find someone to do it with me, and no one wanted to do it. And so she paired me up with, she's like, I know this woman in Washington, D.C. who's been trying to do it. She races cars, and she had a partner that had to pull out, and I'm gonna set you guys up. And we had talked on the phone once, met one more time. I did a training with Emily Miller, and Bethany Hamilton actually was doing the rally that year as well. If you guys know Bethany Hamilton, she's a surfer who lost her arm in the so she also competed in this rally.
She was the navigator or the driver? I'm not trying to be awkward here, by the way.
She was the driver.
Wow. Stick shift or tectonic shifting?
It was automatic, so I'm not sure what they were driving that year. She wasn't my driver. She was driving with Chrissy Beavis. But I do remember a very funny story. We were driving. I probably shouldn't tell this story. But we were
you should definitely tell it now.
Yeah. We were driving down to the training, and Emily put me in the car with Bethany because we were going to be in Morocco together for 10, 15, 20 days with the lead up and the end of the rally. And so we're driving down to Glamis to do our training, and she's driving.
Glamis is sand dunes.
The sand dunes down near Mexico, and she's like, oh, I've got some friends who are competing in this surf tournament in Australia right now. I got to see how they're doing. And so she has her phone here, and she's driving. There's no one else.
Wait a minute. While she's driving, she's looking at the phone. Okay.
And I look up and I realize she's holding that in one hand, and it clicked, oh, she doesn't have another hand to be holding the wheel with. And I realized, oh, she's not holding
the power of the mind.
Yeah,
mind controlling the steering wheel.
Okay,
I don't want to navigate for her.
That was funny to me. But yeah, so I did this rally. There had only been, I want to say maybe 10 women who had done the U.S. women who had done this rally when I went, maybe less, and.
Let's talk about the Gazelle. Before we get into the Rebel, let's talk about the Gazelle rally, which is the Moroccan rally, which, number one, I got to tell you, I'm totally fascinated about the good work and the service work they do. It's so unmanned. Men would never do that. You never hear the Paris-Dakar, or the Baja 1000. We went and built all these orphanages beneath them.
Well, I'm not building the orphanages. They're bringing medical.
I get it.
Okay.
I get it, but it's notable. To me, it's notable, the difference between men and women. That not being, that notwithstanding. So there was a pretty radical accident before the race even began, your very first Gazelle. So maybe just kind of touch on the accident, and then, that sets a pretty scary tone.
Oh, absolutely. We were doing the caravan from where the meetup point was, where we did technical inspections and learned about what the Gazelle was going to entail for us, and then we had to caravan about 12, 13 hours to get to where the starting line was.
And this was in the Atlas Mountains,
and
right,
we had to caravan through the Atlas Mountains to get there. Yeah. And there was a horrible snowstorm. I'm sure the picture's in there somewhere. There we go. And it was just lined up of snow. And at one point we passed a bus, a local Moroccan bus that had flipped over, and there were at least 20 casualties in that bus. And so we're passing that as we're on our way to this.
I mean, what's going through your mind? There's an element of danger to what you do. I mean, I imagine people have injuries.
Absolutely. The first year that I did the Gazelle Rally, another U.S. team, sorry, that was the second year, another U.S. team in the Merzuga Dunes, I believe, went way too fast over the edge of one of the dunes and just nosedived. And that truck was stuck there they were stuck with that truck because they couldn't send anybody to pull them out until they could get people physically there to get them out. So they had to sleep overnight in that sand dune next to that car, just completely shaken. They were it was a very scary moment. And those are good friends of mine too. But they came back the next year, and they came back the year after that.
I think the term is adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
Have you had a moment where you thought, uh-oh? Have you had that sort of like?
Yeah, there was one night that Emmy and I were coming back to base camp, and the sun had already gone down. And that's the scariest thing about the Gazelle Rally is, unlike the Rebelle Rally here in the U.S., there's a checkpoint closed so that they can get everybody back safely to the bivouac before closing, before the sun goes down, before bad things can happen. And in Morocco, they don't have that. If you're out and you can't get back to the bivouac, you just sleep out away from everybody and try to find your way back before everybody gets up the next morning. And once the sun goes down, everything that you're using to navigate off of disappears. Like I have my compass and I know that that's 75 degrees, but I can't see what's in front of me on the train. And if I don't know exactly where I am, usually I'll use that mountain that I can pick off on this map and that ledge that I can pick off on this map, and I can triangulate and figure out, okay, I'm generally right here. Here's the bivouac. I can get myself home. This night, the sun had gone down, and we were nowhere. We did not know where we were because I had nothing to navigate off of. So I figured, well, the bivouac we're roughly in this area. I know the bivouac is about 13 kilometers away. We're just going to start going straight. We might hit some stuff, and we'll have to figure it out. We start going straight. 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers in, we start seeing lights way off in the distance, and we're like, oh, thank God, that's the bivouac. Now we have lights that we can just keep going straight to. It starts to rain. It starts to torrential rain. Now we're getting so close to the bivouac. We're maybe, I want to say, like less than a football field away, and we come across camel grass, which I don't know if you guys know what camel grass is. It looks so innocuous. It just looks like little clumps of grass that you could probably drive through. It is hard as rock lumps of just earth with some grass growing out of it. And you can't drive over it. You will get high-centered and you'll get stuck. So what you need to do is you need to drive one wheel up it, one wheel up. You need to just and it was just a football field's length of camel grass.
Like moguls almost.
Yes, and torrential rain. And I am not a praying woman, but I was just holding onto my seat, just trusting my driver, who I love dearly and who had not let me down so far. And she is just also, I think, just gripping the wheel, driving on that camel grass. And we somehow made it home. I think we almost got stuck on one, and she was able to sort of back out a little bit and then get us going again. And we got home. But I definitely thought we were going to be stuck out there until the next morning, and we made it home.
Till the bell rings at 4 a.m.?
Yeah.
They say, what's the term? There's no atheist in foxholes or something like that? Everybody finds a little religion in the Moroccan gazelle race?
I think so. The other thing that's interesting about Morocco is when you're out there in the middle, there's nobody around for miles and miles and miles. And all of a sudden, as the sun's going down, some men will just pop up on little motorcycles next to your car, and you're not allowed to talk to them because then it's cheating if you have outside help.
Well, if you ask them, like, hey, where's
you can be, even if you don't ask them, if someone sees you, you can be accused of cheating and get penalized or kicked out of
right?
DQ'd.
They DQ you.
Yeah. And so it's equally scary as a woman. You can't be friendly and try to get out of it by being friendly because you have to not speak to them. And so that comes across as rude. And there just is an added level of fear that women are put into that position. So,
how many women are in a race like this?
The Gazelle Rally, it's roughly around 100 teams.
Mm-hmm. So 200 women,
yeah.
And you have support, like sponsorship-wise. Do you have your own support team, or how does the support work?
No, there's mechanics at the bivouac that when you get back to base camp, they can help you on your car. But you have to tell them what's wrong, or at least what you're hearing and what you think is happening. And they can help you for an hour to 2 hours. But if you're on the field, if you're on the course, you're fixing whatever goes wrong. You're fixing your car. You're using duct tape and glue and a prayer sometimes. You're towing people out because you know that you're going to probably need them to tow you out later. So you see someone in trouble, you stop. You run over rather than drive over because you can't waste those precious kilometers. And
because the car is tracked if you go out of the way. It's not just going by the waypoint. Of course, it's the point to point.
They're looking at your odometer when you get back to base camp. They log that. And whoever has the least amount of kilometers logged at the end of the rally is the winner.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't you tell me about fixing that little kilometer measure device with some weird like a rubber band or something?
So fun, man. So that was the U.S. rally, but
that's okay. We can jump around a little.
Back and forth. So the time that we popped that tire and our sensor for the Terra trip was on that tire. Because our sponsors didn't put sensors on all the tires, which would have made
We
sense.
love our sponsors, though. Thank you for supporting us, even when you F up.
So our spare didn't have a sensor on it, and we got back to base camp, and that tire was beyond patching. So we couldn't fix the tire that had the sensor on it to use for the rest of the rally. So we had to figure out how to make a sensor and affix it to our wheel. And our mechanics are amazing in knowledge. They're a depth of knowledge, and they're so sweet. And they're not allowed to do this for us, but they're allowed to give us ideas. They're like, well, a sensor is just a magnet. We're like, okay. Does anybody have a magnet? And we didn't have a magnet, but one of the mechanics had a beer koozie with a magnet in it to keep his beer on his car, I guess. I don't know.
It must have been a strong magnet.
It was, and he sacrificed his beer koozie magnet to give it to us. And we fixed it, and we had to try several attempts because it had to be a very specific distance from the actual sensor. But we were there for 4 hours working on it, and
you got it done, though.
We got a sensor on our wheel with a magnet from a beer koozie.
I love it. Good story. And you're here at the Adventures Club sharing it.
We're here at the Adventures Club, yeah.
So you met Alyssa at the Gazelle race, right? Maybe tell us about how you two connected.
Yeah, so she was driving with Chrissy Beavis. She was the driver for the Mercedes Sprinter van.
Yeah.
And so they were competing in the crossover class. I was competing in the 4x4 class with my partner, Emmy, who I had done the rally with twice before. And we just hit it off. We're the same age. We're both from LA. We're both just in entertainment. She's in entertainment she's a writer for ESPN. I'm an actor, singer, again.
Comedian,
yeah. This was not my world. It was more her world because she'd been writing about it, but it was not my world at all, which I like to bring up because I think anybody who has the desire to do something adventurous can. You just need to decide to do it. And that's why I was so frustrated with all my friends that no one wanted to do this, because I left this experience just changed. I left it believing I could do anything in the world that I wanted to do. I just had to decide I was going to do it. And you're there you are, you do it.
One of our most famous members, Pierre Odier, who has been a member for many decades, as I understand it, he always says that, just do it. Just put one foot in front of the other, whatever it is, whatever your dream is. You want to go to the moon, figure out the 5,000 steps you need to do the first one and do the second one. I always appreciate that about him. Okay, so, but I still don't understand how you met Alyssa.
Well, we both competed on this rally, and there's very few Americans. I think there were 6 American teams, so that's 12 women, and everybody else is French, and they hate you. And
really? They hate us?
They don't hate me because I say funny things to them. I say, je ne parle pas français, je suis une américaine très stupide, and then they like me. But in general, they don't like the Americans because it's 90% French women, and you know the few interloping Americans. My favorite was one time Emmy and I knew where this checkpoint was. I was so sure.
You're like, c'est suffit.
Oh, wait, so that hill. And like, I knew down to like the 10th of a kilometer. I was like, Emmy, you have to trust me. It's over that freaking mountain right there. I know where it is. I can taste it. And this French woman rolls up, you know, just smoking her cigarette out of the. I'm like, where do you even get those cigarettes? We're in the middle of the desert. They have to pack them in their suitcases. And she's like, vous savez où nous sommes? Where we are? Oh, I used to know a little more French doing this rally, and I was like, oui.
And you're like, go that way.
And she goes, no. C'est là. And I was like, it's not there. It's over there. I swear. And like, and they drive off. I was like, I don't know what to tell you, Emmy. It's over there. Just trust me. And we went, and to that 10th of a kilometer, we popped right on top of it. And what happens 10 minutes later? French woman coming up over the hill. I was like, yeah, it's right there. Wait.
You ever give them bad directions, you know, just to send them
No.
Come on, you must have done something.
No.
Throw some tacks out underneath their car and nothing?
No, I felt better just to be right. You know?
Good luck with that, Mr. Howells.
Oh, he knows. He knows I like to be right.
Okay, so you guys connected, and then did you decide that you were going to start a team together, or where'd it go?
You know, our last year doing the Gazelle Rally, when we met, or her doing it with Chrissy and me doing it with Emmy, Emily Miller, who was the one who trained all of us, started the Rebelle Rally here in the United States. And it is the only rally that exists like that in the United States. It's incredibly challenging. It's an all-woman rally. It's similar to the Gazelle, but it's more challenging in the sense that there are checkpoints that there is no flag showing you that you are there. You have to navigate so precisely that you get to the spot and you press a button, and that's how you know if you've gotten it or not, or if you've gotten a wide miss and lost points. And the first year of doing the Rebelle Rally, I was asked by one of the main sponsors of the rally if I wanted to navigate for one of their teams, which was awesome because I had to pay for every rally that I've done before that. I was like raising money, I was getting sponsors, I was asking my friends, I was doing GoFundMes, and all of a sudden I am now a sponsored navigator. I was like, wow, I have this new resume item. So I competed in the inaugural Rebelle Rally, and my team won. So that was very exciting, and because we won, we got to come back the next year.
But that was not with Alyssa, right?
It was not with Alyssa. They had paired me with a woman from the Hohen Motors, who was our sponsor. So I did it a second year. Alyssa was covering the rally that year as a writer. So we did hang out. We were able to spend time together then. And then 2 years later, Kia came to the Rebelle Rally and asked Emily for names for a team that they wanted to put in. And they suggested myself and Alyssa. And the story goes, when they called me, and I was like, well, who's the driver? And they said, we're going to ask Alyssa. And I was like, oh my God, yes, I'm in. And apparently when they called Alyssa, she's like, well, who's the navigator going to be? And they're like, Sabrina. She's like, oh yes, I'm in. And it was a marriage made in heaven. Like we get along, we get each other, we both are on the same page about being very competitive, but also very forgiving, and and very much wanting to be a team. Being good rebels means also, if someone's in trouble, you do stop and you help as much as you can. Partially because you might be in trouble later, and you're going to want them to help you as well. But there is a really beautiful community in this rally.
Do you carry a basic recovery gear like a 50-foot rope and hooks and
we carry
traction? What do you call them, traction boards?
We carry Max Tracks. That's TM Max Tracks.
Those are the things you put underneath.
Yeah,
okay.
and that's the actual brand is Max Tracks.
Are we getting a little commercial here?
Yeah, Max Tracks. Honestly, no joke. There's fake Max Tracks, and we were given not fake, but I'm not sure what they're called, and they do not work like Max Tracks. Max Tracks are the most amazing recovery in sand, in snow. You can use it as a shovel. Sometimes we have other people's Max Tracks and make a ramp to get over something. There we have 2 Max Tracks in front and in back, and we're pushing because even that wasn't enough.
It doesn't even look like you would be you're high-centered. Is that the problem? You're high-centered there?
Yeah, I think we're a little bit high-centered, and so the Max Tracks pops you up.
Yep.
We got tow ropes, we got shovels, we got our Max Tracks, fire extinguishers, tools, impact. We have an impact drill, jacks.
Do you have a floor jack too?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? Do you crank it up?
We have the hydraulic one. What's that one called? The really good one.
Yep.
Which, thank God, because when we were in Titus Canyon in 2021, and there was a snowstorm, and we pop a lot of tires. We're really good at putting holes in tires, and we're really good at changing tires.
Maybe you should get a tire sponsor.
They might be like, oh, you're popping a lot of our tires. But we popped a tire in Titus Canyon, and it started to snow, like wide out snow. And we pull over and we start, changing the tire, and the
lug nut
that goes on the bolt. The lug nut wasn't fitting into the tires.
So the lug wrench wasn't fitting
It wasn't fitting into the hole because it was a deeper set. It was a different hubcap than the other ones were, because it was our spare tire.
Like crack team
no one
that
had
set
checked
it up.
That, yeah. And so we didn't know what to do. We're like, there's no way for us to get this off. I ended up grabbing my pocket knife and I whittled off the outside, because it was sort of like that, not silicone, but like that hard plastic.
Yeah.
I had to whittle it down so that we could fit it in there. And then it was so tight that Alyssa had to jump on it. So we have little tiny, she's like 5 feet tall. So she's just jumping on this like stick to loosen the bolts. I'm like whittling it off to be able to get it in.
Teamwork.
Yeah, it's crazy times.
So tell me about Titus Canyon, because as you related this to me, this was actually, the scariest part of the Rebel Rally. Like a number of things happened, and maybe you can, first of all, where it is and set the tone a little.
So Titus Canyon is in Death Valley, and it is this incredibly beautiful gorge. And the scary part was in the beginning, because entering it, she had us come in on an enduro, which you have to be going at a specific speed, and if you stop, the person who started the enduro 2 minutes after you, behind you, is now going to be coming up on you, and if they don't see you, or there could be crashes. And it started white out snowing, so there was that in addition to that potential of impact. And that's when we popped a tire going too fast around some corner, and some rock she didn't see. So we couldn't stop. We had to keep going, even though we knew that this tire was popped.
You're on the rim.
Yeah.
And how fast are you going now?
You're not going super fast, but it feels super fast because you have a stopwatch in one hand and the turns in your other hand.
The turns? You mean the list of turns?
Yeah, it's like Dakar style.
Right. So you pre-run it.
We don't pre-run.
Oh, you don't pre-run it. No. So how do you know where all the turns are? Aren't you looking at a 19?
It has written, so it'll say you're going at your set speed is 20 kilometers per hour, 1.4 kilometers, turn right at this, like, and it'll have a little picture of a rock. It has like little images to let you know, and then it'll say, 2.5 kilometers, go straight past, and it'll have a tree, so you have to keep an eye out for that. And throughout it, there's checkpoints that you don't know when they are along this route, so you have to be keeping this, whatever the speed is they're telling you. Now you're going to change to 40 kilometers per hour at 5.7 kilometers, and so I'm doing math in real time, trying to keep her on time and make sure we're passing things when we're supposed to pass things and making lefts when we're supposed to make a left. And so you go between 20 to maybe 50 kilometers per hour, depending on which part. But we were going relatively fast, and we just had to keep going until we found a safe place to pull over.
How do you control the car on a rim? Like, how do you make a left turn if it's the right, or how do you make a right turn if the right rim? I mean, I would think it's very difficult. I've had that experience, and I can tell you it's very difficult.
Alyssa was...
She's a stud. She's a badass.
Yeah, she was figuring it out. I was just freaking out in the right seat.
And did anything else happen in Titus?
After that... After we changed our tire, then you start going down deep into the canyon, and there's just a lot of like hairpin turns with just sheer cliff faces going down as you're going down into the canyon. The rest of it was just really beautiful and scenic, and couple of like kind of scary turns, but it was more just a beautiful place to visit. There's hieroglyphs in there. It's just an incredible place that everyone should try to drive through at some point in their life.
Not race through like you.
No, don't race through it.
Yeah, you didn't have time
Just
to look at
drive through
hieroglyphics. What do you know about hieroglyphics?
Yeah,
You're in a race.
I didn't get to see any of it, but it was so pretty. It was really, and Alyssa gets to go straight for a very long time in this, and I didn't have to think about anything, so I could just sit and look. It was really nice.
Is it it seems like a very demanding sport.
Yeah, I don't eat. The whole, like, I'm eating like just little snacks because we don't ever want to stop and have an actual lunch because we don't know if we have enough time to get all our checkpoints. And it's physically demanding in the sense that anytime you get stuck, you're digging yourself out, you're towing, you're helping someone, jumping out and just running to dig someone out so you can get back in your car and keep going. In the sand dunes, I'm running so many kilometers a day, just trying to show her where she's going and make sure I'm looking over and seeing if I see any flags.
And you're mostly communicating by like a wireless device, or are you yelling at each other? Or you do hand signals, or a combination of all three?
No wireless device. We're just talking to each other.
Mm-hmm. You're wearing helmets though, right?
We are wearing helmets.
And 5-point seat belts and everything?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm curious about how do you finance these? I know you said that Kia came, but in general, is this a well-sponsored sport, or? Most of the women who do it, I believe, raise funds themselves. When I did the Gazelle Rally in Morocco, I was raising the funds myself. We were, finding sponsors here or there. The first year we did it, Emmy and I, we put stickers on our car with butterflies with the names of cancer people who have survived or who we've lost to cancer. People would buy butterflies, and half of the money would go towards cancer research, and the other half would go towards helping us fund our rally. And then all these beautiful names of those that we've fought for and those that we've lost and those who are still with us got to fly through the desert of Morocco on our car. That's very cool. What does it cost to field a team for? Is the Rebelle 10 days, 7 days? The Rebelle is 7 days. Okay. I haven't had to pay to do the Rebelle. I believe it's around 15,000, 10 to 15. What does that buy you, 15,000? That would be the 7 days. You would still have to supply your car. Yeah. And the team and everything around it. So that gives you your food and your bivouac. Your food, your bivouac, all of the the safety, the support, the mechanics that are there after for when you get back to the bivouac. The Gazelle Rally is probably around 30,000 for the same thing per team. But that doesn't include the car or anything? It's
That would include the car, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is why there aren't very many U.S. women who do it, because you can ship your car there, but the first year I did it, several women had shipped their car, and the container got lost at sea. So
Like it fell off the ship?
it went to another port, I think, and never made it to Morocco in time for the start of the rally, so they then had to rent a vehicle. Yeah, so they got double dinged on having to pay for that. So, and they had this perfectly, set up car with great everything that they were used to, and I couldn't use it. But.
And are these cars stock, or are they heavily modified, or a combination?
Stock.
It has to be stock.
It doesn't have to be bone stock. There is a category in the Rebelle Rally that you can do bone stock where it's just right off the line. You can make modifications like a skid plate or have better tires. They have to be street legal tires. They can't be like giant racing tires. But you can have off-roading tires, skid plate.
Lights? Can you have big halogen?
Yeah, you could
LEDs?
but you don't need them because you don't really go late into the night. But that's part of the reason that Emily created this rally to be like this, is that she wanted it to be more accessible.
It looks like a mommy mobile.
Yeah, I mean that's a PHEV. We did an electric vehicle that year.
And how was that?
Yeah.
What was the difference for you running electric versus combustion?
We weren't used to it, and so our battery died one day. We weren't used to how quickly the battery would be depleted in the dunes. And so our first day when we had some small dunes, we started having electrical misfiring because we still had some gas, because it was a PHEV, and we still had some electric, but the smaller battery was getting depleted. And so our car just kept stalling out, and we lost our last checkpoint of that day. So once we understood how the electric worked in different scenarios, it was much better, but it was definitely a learning curve for us doing the electric vehicle. The year before we had the Kia Telluride, which is an incredible vehicle. It was very, very cool to drive all over and incredibly capable for being a crossover. So
will you
Telluride.
Will you continue to race with Kia? Is this are you the Kia's navigator moving forward for the Rebelle, or what's next for you?
We've raced for Kia twice now. We would do it again with them if another company wanted to have two wonderful girls drive their car and sponsor us. We would also be open to it. So
when's the next Rebelle?
It's in October.
October, okay. Yeah. And are you planning to be at this one?
I wasn't at this last one. I went to the closing ceremony to sort of represent, but I didn't do last year. I'm not planning at the moment to do it this year, but the first year I navigated for Kia, it was probably 4 months before the Rebelle that they decided to put cars in. So.
And is Alyssa planning to do it?
If I do it.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll do it. It's a blast. It is so much fun, and it's so hard. It's so taxing. You're exhausted and you want it to be over by the last day. And then the next day you want it to start again. Once you've had a good night's sleep and a good meal and and a shower. Yeah.
Oh, they have showers out there?
They do have showers, but you don't really take one every day.
It's not so rough.
You go a couple days without a shower.
You brought up something kind of interesting that I wanted to talk about, and it's a little awkward, but women being childbearing, and I'm sure there are many mothers out there, and they remove your ability to communicate for 10 days, right? Your cell phone's gone. There's no communicating at night. So you get a lot of grief, not you particularly, but there's a lot of grief. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. We were talking to this one woman who. She is married to a man who does racing, races cars, and they have a kid. And she got grief from their friends for wanting to do this because they're like, well, you're going to leave your child for 7 days? Well, who are you leaving it with? And she's like, with my husband, with the father, with his father, who can take care of our child.
They think that little of us.
Yeah, and and it took her a lot of courage to get to the point that because she'd wanted to do it for several years, and then finally she was like, I'm going to do it, and I'm so proud of her, and she was so proud of herself because she said, I want my son to see a woman, his mother, as a woman who takes chances and lives life and has adventures and is strong and capable. And if I didn't take this opportunity, what would he have seen?
Bravo.
Yeah. In fact, the very first year that I did the Rebelle Rally, there was a woman, she's now done, I think she's has done the Rebelle every single year, Sedona Bilson. She is fantastic. She had just had a baby, I want to say 5 months before the rally. Her husband followed the rally route. She pumped, put the milk in a fridge, and the rally made an exception to because we're not allowed to have contact with outside, and she didn't contact her husband, but she would pass off the milk to someone who would then give it to the husband to feed the child.
Wow.
I was like, okay, girl, you are awesome. And
that's a trailblazing woman right there.
That is a trailblazing woman. She is very, very inspiring. I'm blown away by her.
It's interesting. You talk a lot about sort of I forgot how you put it, but sort of the feeling empowered. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can share what, I think everybody here at the Adventurers Club has had that moment where they felt like everything's going wrong, and then they got through it and they felt empowered. Maybe you can share what your version of feeling empowered is in this racing sort of world.
Well, when you ask me that, the first thing that pops into my head is a moment in Morocco. One of the first times I think we got so stuck on this camel grass. There was nobody around. There was nobody to help us. It was going to be hours, if that anybody was going to come by. And so we just got on the ground and we started digging. And it was so hot, and I felt like I was going to faint at least 30 times. We were digging for, I swear, 3 hours because we had to change this mountain into not a mountain to get our car out. And after 3 hours, we got our car out, and I cried because we literally moved a mountain to get out of there and to get to, and we got our next checkpoint, and we got our next checkpoint, and we got our next checkpoint, and we got home. And there was a moment in the midst that I was like, I don't think we can get out of this. How are we going to do this? And we're like, well, either we're going to be here forever or we just start digging. And if we just start digging, eventually we'll dig enough to get out. And we did for 3 hours, and we got that mountain to not be a mountain anymore. And that felt so powerful. It's like, I just moved a mountain. I just moved a mountain. And it's so funny because that's probably one of the smaller moments of all of these rallies where we fixed something, or where I got better at things. This was my first year, and I got better at stuff. And I know how to tow cars out now, and what's the easiest and fastest way to put a Max Trax in to pop out, or to put, I'm good at this stuff now. I wasn't then, and so that was just we're gonna figure it out. It's all just tape and gum, but we did it, and that felt good in the middle of nowhere where no one could help you. You could help yourself.
So you feel like you can do anything now?
Oh yeah.
What do you think is the next big challenge for you? Is it something else in racing? Is it some other sort of challenge that you're interested in facing?
Well, I definitely want to try those monkey bikes.
The monkey bites?
Yeah, the little monkey bike rallies where you're on those little kid bikes.
I don't think I know about this.
Oh man, well Rebecca, who was one of the other rebels who you're going to interview potentially, she did it with Emmy. They had these tiny little monkey bikes.
Are these the little sport bikes? They're like 50 cc's. They're like little tiny ninjas.
They're like kid bikes that you would have in
I've seen them, and you see big dudes on them. I'm like, dude, what's up?
And they you're going through just crazy terrain and have to get from point A to point B and
on the dirt. On the dirt or on the?
You pick. It's like your dealer's choice. I think they start you here. You gotta end.
But nobody wants to see my fat ass on a 50 cc bike. Like
no, they don't. And that's why it's great.
Really? Bunch of big people on 50 cc bikes?
Oh,
I think it'd be like trying to get up the hill.
Hey, get on there. Get on up that hill.
All right. I don't know. Not really my thing, but okay. So that's your next big challenge?
I think so, and I like to do it with my husband. I don't know. We might kill each other.
Now, do you know how to race motorcycles? Or
No.
Have you ever ridden one?
No.
Okay. You may want to sort of back up a little here before you jump on that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If I say I've never navigated through the deserts of Morocco.
Fair enough.
You just learn. You go. I'll have someone teach me, and then I'll go to wherever this is and get on one of those little bikes and do it.
Do you have any advice for young women, young girls about not only following your dream, but if you want to have a racing career? Because it's not really what I think most young girls think about doing.
I mean, honestly, and this sounds like a huge commercial for the Rebelle, but it is such a welcoming place to start that career, even if it's not a career, if it's just something you want to try, it is such a welcoming place to do it. There are women who are just seasoned car racers and navigators who are doing this, and there are women who have, like I was when I went to Morocco, who've never done any of this, and it's just the perfect place to start, and it's all women. So because that's the problem with the car racing world. It has been very exclusionary for a very long time. It's always been a boys world, and now there's getting traction for women. There's Babes in the Dirt doing motorcycle stuff for girls, and the Rebelle Rally is just a really challenging, really supportive, really incredible event to compete in, and it's doable. And there's, you just start raising some money, and you can rent a car, you can find a car that someone already has that they're willing to let you take through the desert. It's you don't need, it doesn't have that cost of entry that, like a monster truck or quad racing would necessarily have. So check out the Rebelle.
I have to ask you a bit of an awkward question.
Yes.
And let's say hypothetically, like I can't enter the Rebelle.
Having to go to the bathroom
No, not that awkward.
Not that awkward.
We can talk about that later. But let's say I identify as a transgender woman.
Sure.
Like I'm a pretty ugly woman for sure.
Sure.
But let's just say I show up at the Rebelle and I'm like, look, I'm transgender. Do you think they let me race?
I don't think they've come across that before, but it's a very progressive group of women. So my personal belief is that a trans woman is a woman. That might be controversial to some people. I don't know. And I would personally feel very comfortable rallying alongside a trans woman on the Rebelle
Will
Rally.
you be my navigator if I do it?
Okay, but you're not a trans woman.
I'm just saying how I might identify. I don't know how you are time-wise, but I'd love to ask the audience for a few questions.
Sure.
Are you okay, Thomas?
Yeah.
Do we have a microphone that we can pass around for these fascinating guests of ours?
Yeah, Rich Abley, 1172. What type of prizes were available for those two different types of racing? For winning first place?
Honor. No, for winning first place, you do get entry into the next year for free. And that's seriously, you get a really dope trophy. That's our second place trophy, I think, or third. I can't remember. One year we got second place, one year we got third. And in Gazelle as well, it's entry. I want to say that in the Gazelle second place, you might also get half of your entry fee the next year. And if you win the Gazelle, you also get this really beautiful gold necklace with Max Tracks. Well, not Max Tracks, but sand letters.
Is this Michael Lawler, 1195, is this a spectator sport at all? I mean, do you have people come out to watch you race? And how do they do it? Because you're gone the whole time.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is ESPN covering this, like ESPN 2 or 3 or anything at all?
They should. They do not cover it yet. It is not a spectator sport in person. They do have on the rally website a live. They've got a ton of media at the rally following the different cars, and there's 2 commentators that stay there and do a live presentation all day long throughout the rally and giving updates, and they'll, let's shoot it over to the camera where teams are in the dunes, and, they'll interview people and put together media packages for the day. But yeah, unfortunately, there's really no way to make it an in-person media. But ESPN should be following it. ESPN? Alyssa writes for ESPN. They should.
Yeah.
Right? She should hook it up.
Yeah.
One more question?
Adam Bray, not a member. Totally fascinating and super interesting. I was back here looking at the website of both of the 2 rallies that you have participated
Thank you.
in. And it seems like there's a bunch of training classes and courses and guides and entry points. If you were to suggest one or more of those that you might or might not be aware of, which would you recommend to somebody who's curious but not ready to enroll in a 7-day rally?
Totally. I think there are on the Rebel Rally website a lot of videos and like maps and other things that's to give you that kind of training for the rally, for the navigation element. Just signing up for one of the 2-day courses through the rally is my ideal way to tell someone to learn about it, and then you could get a taste for all of it. I took a navigation course at REI, but right before I was going to go to Gazelle. I did. I was like, I literally knew nothing about navigation or outdoor waypoints so REI courses, and then the 2-day through the Rebel would be the best, I think.
Well, look, I'd like to thank you very much for coming. And to our audience at home, I'd like to say that get off your ass, come into the Adventurers Club, experience our collection, experience the amazing people that we interview every Thursday night, as we have for 101 years. And I'd especially like to thank our all-volunteer organization and Phoebe Piper, who does an amazing job running our audio-visual. Sabrina Howell, thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.